Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. And unfortunately, things are not getting well. Yeah, I'm not very positive, I would say, about Lazio. Alistair, don't start like this. Third defeat in a row. Second time Lazio loses at home, and it's the second time of the season because before the COVID breakout, Lazio never lost at home, and now we lost against Milan that you could expect without Immobile and Casado, but against Sassuolo, that is true, had a terrific performance since the Serie A restarted. But, you know, we were expecting something more, right, Alistair, from this match?
Were we? I mean, yes, probably something more than that, but it was only, I suppose, a continuation of what we've already seen in the week before against Milan, like you said, and also particularly against Lecce, because obviously it was almost an exact replica of what happened in Lecce, where Lazio managed to take the lead and then managed to lose it again. And I think it was a particular sucker punch this time because the winning goal came late on. But to be honest, I don't think any of us are going to really be arguing that it was any less than Sassuolo deserved, given the way that the game went, because it was another really poor performance.
Yeah, and one thing you didn't mention, again, the opposite team of Lazio scored in the first minutes of the match. Like against Lecce, it has been cancelled, but this proves you that the team not only is not fit, but is not focused. Because since the Serie A restarted, Lazio, except against Atalanta, allowed a goal in the beginning of the match in every single match. And this cannot be related to the physical condition. I hope at least 10 minutes they are able to run. It's simply the lack of concentration that it's embarrassing. As I said in last podcast, I believe the fact that fans are not there doesn't help, but this can happen in the first three matches. At the seventh match, you should be used that there are no fans there, and still Lazio is making silly mistakes. And starting a match 1-0 down is never easy, especially when you don't run anymore. It gets complicated. And yeah, this is not acceptable anymore.
No. And I think yesterday in particular, given that it was a 5:15 kickoff, it was really hot. I think about 33 degrees at the time that they stepped out on the pitch, and the pitch was in full sunlight as well, most of it. So it was pretty obvious from the start that they didn't want to, use loads of energy immediately because they were basically walking around for the first 5 minutes, and it looked like they were going to just camp out in their own half for the whole game, which is more or less what happened. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to use that kind of strategy, then I think you've got to make sure that you're as tight as you need to be. I don't think the Sassuolo goal should have been disallowed. I mean, unless there's some loophole in the rules that I don't know about. Marco Parolo makes a very intentional tackle, which takes the ball into the path of Raspadori to finish. So I think Lazio are really lucky to have had that goal cancelled by VAR in the first place. Then you have Juricic hitting the crossbar. I mean, the warnings are there, but the fact of the matter is, like the Lecce game, Lazio were in front in this game. So, I mean, as much as we can complain about Lazio starting games slowly, they have now twice in a row managed to get themselves in front. And then it's all about character. It's not all about character, but it is a huge part of it. Because if you actually think back over this season, Lazio have been in positions where they've not been playing well in games and they've still managed to get the result that they needed, because even when they're not at their best, they've been able to see it through. So it's been really disappointing against two opponents that Lazio should be beating to see them take the lead and then not really have the organisation, the energy, the belief that they can actually hang on to what they've got. I find that really disappointing.
We have to say that Lazio missed again against Lecce, a couple of very good chances. Ciro Immobile in the first half had an incredible chance that I still don't believe he missed. Luis Alberto again. So it's not that Lazio didn't create chances, it's that we are wasting them. And as we are not creating any more like 8, 9 big chances, but 3 or 4, you should take all of them. A lot of our listeners complain about Lazzari. Alistair, I think that yesterday, by far, Lazzari was the best Lazio player on the pitch. The only one probably who ran for 90 minutes. And yeah, again, I think in the first half, the tactic was ball to Lazzari and hope that he can put the ball in the box and do something, because he was the only one playing yesterday, pretty much.
Yeah, where does he get this energy from? It's amazing. I mean, the amount of running he was doing, you would never have guessed if you didn't know that that was the wing back who started every single game since the restart, and the other wing back was starting for the first time all season. Jordan Lukaku, again, really disappointing when given a chance to start a game. Looked tired, looked like he didn't really know what to do to make an influence in the game. But yeah, Lazzari has helped Lazio really get from one end of the pitch to the other, because the passing's not doing it. The passing's too inaccurate. The goal kicks, oh my God. I mean, what are they doing? They're just handing the ball back over. I know Sassuolo have one of the highest average possessions in the league, and they're very good on the ball. They're very good at pressing, but Lazio were just giving them the ball back every time without even looking interested in holding on to it. So Lazzari was really important in that, transition from defence to attack. But you've got to have more than just him. The midfield was almost non-existent, and the strikers weren't holding the ball up. Caicedo was awful. Like you said, I think Immobile looked a bit livelier in terms of his movement, but his finishing still isn't nearly as sharp as it was. We've just got so many problems.
Yeah, that's the big issue. Right? We have so many problems. Going back to Lukaku, we have to say that when Johnny came in, things didn't change at all. I mean, Johnny made Lukaku look good again. I think he came in and it was invisible. So we have tons of problems. And the other problem, Alistair, I know some of our listeners asked this on Twitter and on Facebook. It's not worthy to play with Caicedo or Milinkovic-Savic that are injured. Lazio pretty much yesterday played 2 men down. Milinkovic-Savic is physical. He didn't win an aerial tackle. Never. In all 90 minutes, he was invisible. Caicedo, I don't think he kept the ball more than 2 seconds without giving it back to Sassuolo. Sassuolo scored with a guy that came from Primavera, who never played a single match in Serie A, and scored twice to us yesterday. And this is a message to Simone Inzaghi. It's better to have a Primavera player that is fit and run for 90 minutes than a champion that is injured and wobbles for 90 minutes without doing nothing. So, I don't understand. You have both Anderson on the bench. You have Falbo. You have Adekanye that when came in, gave a little bit of spark again, like he did in Lecce. And still you play Milinkovic-Savic that is dead. Luis Alberto was awful. Caicedo. I mean, let's start playing 11 against 11.
This was my biggest takeaway from the game, was essentially that De Zerbi and the way that he manages that Sassuolo team really shows Inzaghi in very stark light exactly how you need to manage a team right now. When we've got a game every 3 days, when you've got this heat, when you've got injury problems. Sassuolo don't have a bigger squad than Lazio, and we've got injury problems, selection problems, that's true. But it's not true that we don't have other options than what he's putting on the pitch. I've just written an article about this. You can find it on my Twitter feed or in Force Italian Football, but it's frustrating to me that I named 8 players. Silvio Proto, the backup goalkeeper. We've got the 3 guys who've been promoted from the Primavera in Armini, Falbo and Silva. We've got the 2 Andersons, and we've got Adekanye. We've got Dennis Bavaro, who we paid 12 million euros for. None of these guys have started any games so far. In total, I mean, they've made about 100 minutes of football between all of them. And Raspadori is just a great example of this. It's like, if you never try these guys, you'll never know. And the thing De Zerbi's doing brilliantly is that he's managing to weigh up when to rest certain players and when not to. It's not like he's playing an A team one week and a B team the next week. He's mixing up the 2 sides, so he always has some strong players on the pitch and some relatively untested players on the pitch. Inzaghi's trying to play his A team every week, and it's not working because none of them have any energy left. I mean, the difference between rotation is that Sassuolo are rotating on average over 7 players per game with each lineup. Lazio are rotating 2 per game, and that figure is kind of inflated by the fact that there have been some enforced rotations when there have been players suspended. So it's ridiculous, really, the difference between the two sides. And I don't think it's a coincidence that you've got a team rotating as effectively as Sassuolo, playing as well as Sassuolo, and a team who are refusing to do it at all, like Lazio, playing as badly as they are.
And the other thing is, every time Javan Anderson came in, he did decent. He wasn't amazing, but he did well. Adekanye was the most dangerous player against Lecce. Again, yesterday when he came in, he did well. So it's not that you say, hey, I tried them, they're rubbish. No, they played well. Obviously, if you play them, Adekanye came in the last 8 minutes, what can he do? Give him a full half at least. Come on, you have the players. Andre Anderson, we've been all the breakup of Serie A saying, hey, this guy is interesting. This guy could really be something special, etc. He played like eight minutes in the first match, and that's it. I mean, what? Especially because Milinkovic-Savic is dead. He's injured. He was rubbish yesterday. He was terrible. He didn't win a tackle. And it's not Milinkovic-Savic's fault. It's not that Milinkovic-Savic suddenly is a terrible player. If you're injured, you cannot play. It's simple as that. The Inzaghi every time says, I have to thank the player because they weren't fit, they're injured, and they play. It's your mistake. You have Javan Anderson, you have Andre Anderson, played. Even Cataldi yesterday, when he came in, was a much better player than Luis Alberto, Milinkovic-Savic, and so on. Why do you keep playing injured players? Against Udinese, try them, Andre Anderson, Javan Anderson, and all of them. You have nothing to lose. We are in a 3 losing streak. I mean, worse than this cannot happen, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the frustrating thing for me is that he's talking like he doesn't have any other options, but he does have other. I mean, it's incredible to have spent this much money on Vavro and even now not be willing to play him. Like, I know he's not exactly impressed any of us, but he's fit. He's a fit player. He's played at top level of football. He's not a complete unknown. And the likes of the Primavera guys or the Andersons, we just have to. There's no other option. You have to try at this point. You have to adapt to these circumstances rather than complaining about the position we find ourselves in or feeling sorry for yourselves about injury problems. It's time to actually adapt to these circumstances and find a new way of dealing with it. I don't think that the answer is, rotating necessarily the entire team and having a full starting 11 of new players. But I think the answer might lie in being able to say, right, okay, Milinkovic-Savic needs a rest, so we'll put Javan Anderson in, or Lazio needs a rest, so we put him in. Okay, Acerbi is destroyed, so let's play Vavro. And you can still maybe have, Immobile, Alberto in that team, but you've got some other guys mixed in. And then for the next game, you can bring them out and you can bring Milinkovic-Savic and Lazio back into the team. Just find a way of rotating, because at the moment, like you say, you're giving yourself a handicap by playing guys who aren't fit. And it was so evident yesterday. I mean, the other side of this is that people might say, okay, but Juventus aren't rotating an awful lot. There are other teams who haven't done this huge rotation between all their matches and are still managing to get results and play better football than Lazio are. So then that brings us back to the point that you were furious about a few days ago with the fitness and why this team isn't looking fit enough. And I suppose, Vittorio, there's now this story about Acerbi getting in a big row with the head of the medical department after the game, and supposedly everyone's at peace now, but it does sound like some tensions are building around that.
Well, Acerbi is another player that was simply terrible against Lecce, and yesterday he seemed destroyed. I published on my Twitter account yesterday old interview of the physical fitness of Lazio, saying the team is in great shape. The The pause didn't affect the team. They are completely fit. Okay. I mean, this is still paid by Lazio and still hasn't get fired. I'm simply astonished. This is unacceptable. But yeah, we paid Vavro 11 million euros. Acerbi is in pieces, poor guy. Why don't we sub him? I mean, yesterday it was terrible. I think Lazio run for 20 minutes yesterday, while Sassuolo was running for 95. And the problem is, you can say, okay, when there are two players that are not running, it's the player's fault. But when all the team except Lazzari is not running, it's obvious that it's the physical conditioner problem, because they're not fit, they're not able to run. To add to this, obviously, the rotation that was missing didn't help. But again, I mean, as you said, we cannot play 11 new players against Udinese because it would be a disaster. But we have to rotate. I mean, Milinkovic-Savic is injured. He doesn't have to train this week and rest. Leiva came in and was awful. Why do you bring in Leiva if he's not fit, if he's injured? You have Cataldi, you have Anderson. Put them in. This thing, Alistair, I don't understand. The first year of Inzaghi, he made Perce made his debut in Serie A. He's not a professional football anymore. And he made his debut with Inzaghi. He launched Strakosha, Lombardi, etc. Now it looks like he stick with his 11 players and that's it. I simply don't understand what happened with Inzaghi.
Well, we know he's very cautious. We know he's not one who's willing to really take big gambles in terms of selection or formation or changes strategies, changes tactics. When he finds something he likes, he does tend to stick with it. And a point I made in this article I wrote around the rotation was that that's actually been, his willingness to put faith in players and stick with them has actually been one of his biggest strengths in many ways during his time at Lazio, because he's helped a lot of players to get through difficult periods, because he's never backed down in his support for them. But we have to, acknowledge the fact that the set of circumstances we have right now is completely different to anything else. So there's no point in trying to compare it to positions we've been in the past. It is a time for extreme measures, and especially when the team's lost 3 games in a row, 4 out of 6, throwing away leads when we have them, and bombing down the table. I mean, it's amazing we're still in second place. It's infuriating that, as I suspected, Juventus have gone and thrown away all these points over the last week, and we've not been able to do anything about that. It's worth saying, this is still going to be a really good season for Lazio. We're frustrated about this right now because of the standards that they've set. So I think we have a right to be frustrated before anyone starts saying that this is unreasonable to be having a go at the team. It's not unreasonable, because we know they're capable of better, and they've shown us they are. They've set new standards. That's how you improve as a team. So I don't know. I mean, I guess the thing I want to move on to now is what you're worried about, which is whether this team will actually fall out of the top 4 in spectacular fashion on the final day of the season. I mean, is it genuinely a worry for you? Because Lazio, let's put it out there, needs 5 points, I think, to qualify for the Champions League. We have 6 games left. Do you really think that's not going to happen?
I really do. Unfortunately, I really do. And the thing is, it wouldn't be the first time. Do I have to recall you what happened a couple of years ago? But before moving to that, I think this that's happening now, Lazio has to take the positive thing about this. And Taren Lotito has to speak to Inzaghi and said, okay, you have 25 players. If you trust only 13, this means that the others, we have to get rid of them and replace them with players that you say, okay, Milinkovic-Savic is not fit, I can put this one. Luis Alberto is playing bad, he's going to rest, this is going to start. Because it's not the numbers that are missing, it's simply Simone Inzaghi that are not playing them. So this is important. The squad depth is not great, but still you have to put players that the manager trusts and say, okay, I'm going to play this guy, I'm confident. Because this is a little bit what happened with Pedro Neto last year, right? I thought, and we are seeing it with Wolverhampton. Pedro Neto is starting and is playing great football, and Inzaghi simply didn't see it. So I think this is a perfect occasion to talk with Inzaghi and say, okay, look, Andre Anderson, I don't like him. I will never play him, even if we are desperate. So we have to replace him with a player that Inzaghi said, okay, I trust him, I'm going to play. Because otherwise, you can have 35 players, even 1,100. But if Inzaghi stick with those 13, it's useless. I mean, so this is one of the important things.
And, you know, if I'm going to say when we get into the Champions League, the fact of the matter is it's not going to be enough, because we already saw this season that this squad isn't deep enough. It doesn't have enough quality to compete in the Europa League group stages, in a group that wasn't particularly difficult, getting knocked out there because of the rotated team that he put out not being capable of getting results. Now, next year, if we qualify for the Champions League, we're talking about these midweek games being against the best teams in the world. So there has to be a change, whether that's in Inzaghi's way of thinking, where he insists on playing the same small group of players every time, or whether that's simply a case of, well, Lotito and Tare need to invest heavily in this summer in order to actually bring in the quality required. Because, as we've just shown, it's not a numbers issue in the way that they seem to be complaining about it being. Yes, we've lost a lot of players, but we have an awful lot of players who are available, who can play, who are fit, who aren't being selected. So, okay, that then suggests that he doesn't think they're good enough. Well, we need that many good players, or at least that many players that Inzaghi considers good enough to be playing in a Champions League campaign, because otherwise it could get quite ugly. And the one thing I think we can all agree on is that if we finally return to the Champions League after 13 years, the last thing we want to do is embarrass ourselves in that competition.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we saw that the team is not fit to play every 3 days, and the Champions League group is going to be much tougher than a Europa League group. So we need replacement. We need quality bench. Going back to my fear is that Lazio now has 14 points from Roma that won yesterday. There are 6 matches to play. So if Roma wins everyone, 6 times 3, 18. So Lazio need at least 5 points, if not 6. So the only positive things about this is that Roma...
If Roma win every game, that's what we mean.
Yeah. And the only positive thing is that Roma is going to play against Verona and Inter, the next 2. So I think after these 2 matches, we will have a better idea. But I have to be honest. Looking Lazio, do you think Lazio is going to beat Udinese? I don't think so. Away, I don't think so. And against Juventus, we could lose like 5-0 easy. And the only 2 easy, or at least easier match Lazio's playing is against Cagliari and Brescia, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is Verona in the middle away, and again, that's a cross match. So, Lazio has really 2 matches.
Only 2 home games left as well.
And those are the only 2 matches where Lazio can take the points for me. So, it's all up to that. And let's not forget, there's even Napoli. Napoli is playing against Milan, so, But after that, there's Bologna, Udinese, Parma, Sassuolo, and Inter, who could be already qualified for the Champions League. Napoli could really go and win them all. So,
I don't know. I mean, look, yeah, I get what you mean with looking at the way Lazio are playing at the moment. Where are we going to get 5 points from? I still think that is likely to happen, I have to say, because look, even if you look at the very worst teams in this league, none of them have gone as I've not looked this up, but I would assume that none of them have gone on a run as bad as losing 9 consecutive games, which is what Lazio would have to do basically for this to not happen. That would be an absolutely phenomenal collapse that I don't think that they're going to be able to produce. On top of that, yes, the teams below us are playing better than us, but so much ground to make up and so many big games ahead of them. I mean, just looking at Napoli here, they've got Milan tonight, but then they've still got Inter, and then they've still got to play us on the final day. They still have to play Sassuolo, who we've seen are a decent side. Roma, like you say, they've got Verona, they've got Inter, they've got Juventus away. I mean, there's no way that those teams are going to be winning every single game until the end of the season. I think that I think you're getting a bit ahead of yourself with these worries, to be honest.
But the problem is Lazio doesn't have to lose them all. Even if we draw 3 or 4, it's not enough. So it's not that we have to lose them. We have to win 2. And I'm not sure we're going to beat Cagliari or Brescia. Maybe if Brescia gets relegated at that time, but it's still one match, we have to win another one. And,
Brescia managed to make Nikola Kalinic look good last night, so I don't think we need to worry about them.
But Brescia played better in the past, so, and yeah, Napoli scares me because against Bologna is playing badly. Probably against Milan is going to be the turning point. So I'm really scared because I saw this team. This team is done. I think the physical condition will all get worse if we keep playing Milinkovic-Savic that is injured. He will never improve. He will only get worse. So yeah, I'm really scared, to be honest. And I wouldn't be surprised if Lazio doesn't reach the Champions. Other point important. If Napoli and Roma wins Champions League and Europa League, even the 4th spot is not enough for the Champions League. I see pretty much impossible to Napoli to win the Champions League, but seeing what Lazio did in the past weeks or so, nothing is not possible anymore. Nothing is impossible. So,
yep. Come on, have a little bit of positivity. This is too much. You can't spend your whole life thinking about all the worst possible things that could happen. I think that, this does need to change soon. It really, really does. But I still think that, look, I remember saying throughout the season, really throughout the good run, that when we were winning every single week, this isn't going to last forever. This isn't normal. Now we're annoyed about this because Lazio have set such high standards this season. Look, we've lost 3 games in a row. We're in a bad run of form. This has happened before in the last few seasons where Lazio have been in a slump like this. They will get out of it again. They're not showing many signs of doing it, but they will. And I think us as fans need to stand behind them now more than ever, which is kind of the point I was saying when we were on the good run, is that to be a good fan, you need to stick with them through thick and thin. And at the moment, it's pretty thin. But, I think that there is a level of overreaction right now because of what's happening on the pitch. I mean, it's not looking great, but a bit of perspective, I think they're have a slight, it's not very, but you get my point.
I'm not giving up the team. I'm supporting, etc. I simply see how they're playing, and I mean, Udinese beat Roma a couple of weeks ago, so they can easily beat a team who doesn't run. I think it all depends on Inzaghi. If Inzaghi finally understands that he has to rotate the team, we have a chance. If Inzaghi against Udinese starts again with Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto, it's over. It's over. Leiva, it's finished. Parolo, poor guy in the first half yesterday, won for all the other midfield. Our midfielder that was the strength of this team is rubbish. They don't run anymore. Every time the other team has the ball, it's a counter-attack because Luis Alberto and Milinkovic-Savic are not running back, they're walking back. So,
and
this is a problem.
Yeah, and they're running straight through. I mean, the Mancosu goal for Lecce that was disallowed just runs straight through the middle of the pitch and shoots. The Juricic chance yesterday runs straight through the middle of the pitch and takes a shot. It's so easy for teams to cut through Lazio at the moment. So, I agree. I think Inzaghi is the...
And Acerbi is finished. He fall down when who was it that hit the bar, Juric, yesterday? He's he's a shadow of a player, and it's not fair. I don't believe there has been a fight because Mediaset usually doesn't get nothing right about Lazio, but I can think that Acerbi's pissed off because Inzaghi is embarrassing him. He should be resting a little bit because he's not fit. Play Vavro, play Luis Felipe, play Bastos, whoever you want. Play Armini. You have him. Play him. Don't put Acerbi in this condition. It's not fair to him. So
yeah. Also with Armini, I've said why it's ridiculous to have Vavro, he paid all this money for, and then not use him. Well, Nicola Armini, you finally managed to get him to sign a new contract, which hasn't been easy because he's highly rated and other clubs want him. Well, if you're going to give him a new contract, then play him. What's the point of tying him down for another 3 years if you're not going to use him? Because now is the time. Now is the perfect opportunity to actually, he's a left-footed player as well. He can come in for Radu and actually play on that side of the defence, which is an issue area. It's an area we need cover for. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say that Radu was probably one of the best defender yesterday till he was able to play. So, kudos to Radu. Alistair, I think we can wrap it up here. I had enough.
Yeah, me too.
Guys, I know it's really tough, but thanks again for listening us and for supporting us. Again, you can follow us on Spotify, Spreaker, iTunes, on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and remember on Patreon, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge, if you want to support our podcast. Subscription start at $2 a month. Alistair, thank you very much, and another tough match against Udinese is coming up. Let's cross fingers. Hope that Lazio wakes up and finally get some points back. Thank you, Alistair. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.